The oldest myths in the world. What do they have in common? Have you ever wondered about the stories that shaped the very foundation of human civilization? Today, we're diving into the oldest myths in the world and uncovering what they all have in common. From epic battles between gods to profound questions about existence, these tales have it all. So, grab a cup of your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's chat about some legendary stories from ancient times. You know, myths have been around since humans could tell stories. They're not just old tales, they're the threads that weave together the tapestry of our shared human history. From explaining why the sun rises to defining the afterlife, myths have helped societies make sense of the world and their place in it. Let's embark on this journey to explore these ancient stories and see how, despite being from different corners of the world, they share strikingly similar themes. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. Ready? Let's go. Understanding mythology. What exactly is a myth? Myths are traditional stories, often involving supernatural beings or events, that convey a culture's worldview and explain natural or social phenomena. They're different from legends and folklore in that myths typically deal with the divine or the creation of the world. In ancient cultures, myths weren't just entertaining stories, they were essential. They explained the unexplainable, taught moral lessons, and helped to preserve cultural values. These stories were passed down orally from generation to generation. Imagine sitting around a fire, hearing tales of gods and heroes from elders whose voices carried the wisdom of ages. Over time, some of these myths were eventually written down by scribes and priests, preserving them for us to marvel at thousands of years later. The cradle of civilization. Mesopotamian myths. Mesopotamia, often called the cradle of civilization, is home to one of the most famous myths from this region, the Epic of Gilgamesh. This epic tale follows Gilgamesh, a king who's two-thirds god and one-third human. Gilgamesh befriends Enkidu, a wild man created by the gods to keep him in check. Their bromance is legendary, but when Enkidu dies, Gilgamesh is devastated and embarks on a quest for immortality. It's one of the earliest stories exploring themes of friendship, mortality, and the search for eternal life. Then there's the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth. It tells of a cosmic battle between the god Marduk and the chaos dragon Tiamat. Marduk defeats Tiamat and creates the world from her remains. It's a classic chaos versus order narrative. Ancient Egyptian mythology. The Egyptians had multiple creation myths, and they weren't shy about mixing things up. Depending on which city you were in, you might hear a different version. In Heliopolis, they believed in the god Atum, who created himself from the primordial waters. In Memphis, the creator god was Ptah, who spoke the universe into existence. And in Hermopolis, the focus was on the Ogdoad, a group of 8 deities representing primordial elements. Perhaps the most famous Egyptian myth is the Osiris myth. Osiris is killed by his jealous brother Set. Osiris's wife, Isis, uses magic to resurrect him just long enough to conceive a son, Horus, who eventually battles Set for the throne. The Egyptian afterlife, Duat, involves a journey after death where one's heart was weighed against the feather of Ma'at, symbolizing truth and justice. If your heart was lighter, you got a ticket to the good afterlife. Indus Valley and Vedic myths. In the ancient Indus Valley civilization and the early Vedic period of India, one of the oldest texts is the Rig Veda. The Nasadiya Sukta, or the Hymn of Creation, tackles some heavy philosophical questions about the origins of the universe. The Purusha Sukta describes a cosmic giant, Purusha, whose body is sacrificed to create all life. From his different parts come the various classes of society, hinting at the origins of the Varna system. Early concepts of rebirth and karma emerge here, introducing the idea that our actions have consequences beyond this life. It's a belief that continues to influence millions today. Ancient Chinese mythology. One of their creation myths revolves around Pangu, a giant who separates heaven and earth. He holds them apart for 18,000 years, and when he dies, his body becomes the features of the earth. Then there's Nuwa, the goddess who created humanity. According to the myth, she molded humans from yellow clay. In another tale, she repairs the broken pillars of heaven after a catastrophic war. The 4 symbols, the azure dragon, vermilion bird, white tiger, and black tortoise, represent the cardinal directions. These symbols played a significant role in Chinese cosmology and divination. Mesoamerican myths. The Mayan myth of the Popol Vuh is a fascinating read. It narrates how the gods attempted to create humans several times before succeeding with corn dough. The story also includes the adventures of the hero twins, Hunahpu and Xbalanque, who outwit the lords of the underworld. It's a tale filled with magic, trickery, and the eternal struggle between life and death. The Aztec myth of Coatlicue tells of her miraculous pregnancy with Huitzilopochtli. His birth leads to a battle with his siblings, emphasizing themes of creation, destruction, and sacrifice. Common themes in the world's oldest myths. Nearly every culture has a story about how the world began. These myths seek to answer the age-old question: where did we come from? Flood myths are common. From Gilgamesh to Noah's Ark to Manu in Hinduism, tales of floods suggest real events or symbolize cleansing and rebirth. Water has always been a powerful symbol. Many myths feature a battle between forces representing order and chaos. It's a reflection of humanity's desire to make sense of a chaotic world. The hero's journey involves a quest and personal transformation. Questions about what happens after death are universal. Ancient myths often provide detailed journeys of the soul, emphasizing moral conduct and the potential for an afterlife. Anthropomorphic deities with human traits make them relatable and their stories more compelling. It makes for some dramatic narratives. Possible explanations for commonalities. Shared human experience. Regardless of where people lived, they faced similar existential questions and natural phenomena. Trade routes and migrations allowed for the exchange of ideas. Psychological archetypes. Carl Jung proposed the collective unconscious, where innate symbols and themes are shared across humanity. The impact of ancient myths on modern society. Influence on literature and art. From Shakespeare to modern novels, mythological themes are everywhere. Religious beliefs have roots in ancient myths. Philosophers use mythological themes to explore complex ideas. In popular culture, movies like Thor and games like God of War draw from ancient myths. Our fascination with these themes shows they're still relevant. We've journeyed through Mesopotamia, Egypt, India, China, and Mesoamerica, uncovering the oldest myths known to humanity. These stories share common themes, like creation, floods, and the hero's journey. These myths highlight our shared human experience and the power of storytelling. They connect us to our ancestors and each other in ways not always realized. They influence literature, art, movies, and even philosophies. Thanks for hanging out today. If you enjoyed this trip through ancient myths, give this video a thumbs up. Do you have a favorite myth or story? Drop it in the comments below. If you're curious about more tales and how they've influenced our world, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Till next time, keep pondering those big questions and sharing stories. After all, that's what makes us human.